And I think we are away. So, welcome everybody. I hope you are all fantastic this morning on this, well, at least in Southeast Queensland, it's absolutely beautiful winter's day. It's nice and still, blue skies here, and I am in short sleeve shirt and shorts because it is fantastic weather in Southeast Queensland, Australia. So, thank goodness for that. My name is Justin Phillips, and a big hello and welcome to everyone that is joining us both on the live Zoom as well as the Facebook Live, which is in the Renew with Redox. If you are watching in the Renew with Redox, I encourage you to come over to the live to be a little bit more interactive. But please put your comments in the Facebook Live if that's the only place you can watch it. And I invite you to ask if people are interested in the content that we've got that we're offering today. Please ask them to jump into that Renew with Redox Facebook group and watch the recording. So, my name is Justin Phillips, and myself and my wonderful wife Nicole live in beautiful Bribie Island, Queensland, Australia, and we are very passionate about empowering people with health and happiness and prosperity and sharing some of the extraordinary life experiences and lessons that we've learned in our journey. And one of those is our interactions and experiences and life-changing lessons that we've learned from the extraordinary Jost, aka the lifestyle medicine man. And Jost is our guest speaker. Again, we've been doing these interviews nearly weekly for, I think it's about the 10th week. Last week we skipped one. We were on holidays, apologise for that, but we had a fantastic trip away in the villa up at O'Reilly's, which is Lamington National Park, Southeast Queensland. The 2-bedroom luxury villas are a fantastic place to go and bushwalk and get away from the wide world. So anyway, yeah, and so here today we are going to talk about how to make fear work for you. So there's a lot of stuff going on in the world right now. A lot of people, even before COVID drama, people are really getting stuck in fear. And, fear can be paralyzing, but it can also be super motivating. I remember as a child feeling a deep sense of fear, and that causing me to catch up to my parents if they're walking away or so forth. So it's definitely got an upside if you learn how to use it. And we're going to hear the extraordinary perspective of Jost, because Jost is a master in traditional Chinese medicine, and I just absolutely love his philosophy and approach to life, and how he talks about things like this in a super empowering way. So Jost I met Jost back when I was at the Australian College of Natural Medicine, when he was the supervisor of the student acupuncture clinic. And he has an extraordinary tale himself. He was born in 1958 in Germany. Jost has a bachelor's in health science, acupuncture, and diplomas in oriental massage and remedial therapies, those sorts of things. He began working as a therapist in 1991 and qualified as a doctor of Chinese medicine. He lectured in traditional Chinese medicine for 10 years, and Jost has founded and operated health centers and worked internationally with celebrity clients in the USA and so forth. He's always had a real passion for health and fitness, including national snow skiing champion level at, I think back in Germany, where he's from, and bodybuilding and triathlons, Ironman training, that sort of stuff. But when he discovered Kung Fu and especially Tai Chi, he realized that fitness is only part of the equation and vitality is the other. And this led to decades of research into how to live and how to use nutritional supplements, optimal diet, therapeutic exercise, weightlifting, martial arts, meditation, Tai Chi, yoga to make you feel good, which is what life should be all about, right? But when Jost added in the 24-hour movement of the Qi cycle, the traditional Chinese medicine body clock, he really had a breakthrough and really connected the day-to-day activities to our natural cycles of life. And he developed his Qi cycle lifestyle. And that's the ultimate in lifestyle medicine. And it's founded on thousands of years of Chinese medicine, with over 30 years of Jost academic research and practical observations from living it. Jost he's a dynamic speaker, an author of many books, and always is very entertaining and educational in our conversations. I just love them. Jost does have several publications, including several publications to help drug rehabilitation, and others that are on the Qi book. And his most recent book, which is Clock Onto Health, is a fantastic overview of that and a very empowering way to start to learn this lifestyle medicine technique. So a big welcome and good morning to you, amazing Jost. How are you today? Fantastic to have you on the call. Thank you for joining us.
Really getting good on those introductions.
That's right. Got to, build up, excite the audience and just help people get a bit of the background of like, wow, who are we talking to today? Super honored to have you on the call again. How are you, mate? It's been a couple of weeks. How's life?
Yeah, it's been full on, obviously. Yes, it's getting people waiting for the post-COVID time to happen, but I think it's going to stay with us for a while.
Yeah. I'm a little shocked at the, Qantas parking all its planes in America till July next year. And wow, just blown away. Yeah, how the delay.
Yeah, life is getting more and more challenging. In Chinese medicine, as we evolve the human consciousness, the requirements is to compress with the environment on us. It's like you're putting pressure on the minerals, it turns into diamonds. And, this enormous pressure that's on us now, it's like psychic pressure. It's actually the purpose of it to evolve us. And as a result of this pressure that's on us, and we therefore have the opportunity to break through the mud and turn into a lotus flower. In order to break through that, we obviously experiencing a lot of emotionality. And emotionality is the problem because emotionality, you can't think clearly when you're emotional. And then the pressure is on you, you get emotional, and then you make decisions that later you regret. So that's obviously the real challenge in this current times is how to transcend emotionality into clear-minded action, into mindfulness. Yes.
Yeah.
And that's first of all to understand that the emotions we experience are actually essential for the growth process, but that there is an underlying process to it, and that process is regulated by the organs. So when it comes to emotionality, it's not just in the mind, it's also in the body. And so if we only address the mind in order to deal with that challenging situations, it's not enough. Whereas in fact, if we understand the corresponding organs affiliated with the emotions, we can transcend the challenges into the ability to strengthen ourselves as a result from that. And the major emotion that we're experiencing globally is fear. Yeah, and so fear can paralyze you, but fear is also essential for a growth process because fear provides data and information. Okay, fear is actually given to us to collect information. If you wouldn't have fear, we would, in the old days, we would have walked out of the cave, look around, and the next bear would have eaten us.
Yeah.
And that would have been the end of the human species.
Yeah.
So to prevent the destruction of the human species, the human intelligence, the universal intelligence has given us fear. So fear, as next time we walked out of the cave, we collected some information to look out for, which basically anticipated the bear, and we knew how to get around it, and then we learned how to eat him instead the other way around. And so fear worked for us in that regard. And then with each generation, more data came in. And as life became more challenging and more threatening, we experiencing more fear. So what we're experiencing these days is a lot of challenge and a lot of threats, not only from COVID, but also from the media and from the fear-evoking messages, but then also from the environment, from people who are caught up in fear. Or we have even more information together in order to transcend that information into useful action.
Yeah.
So from a Chinese medicine perspective, we always do the first law, and no one can be fearless.
Yeah. It's a myth, right? Like to
Really?
people like not being affected by fear. It's pretty prime.
Like people think you have to become fearless, and that doesn't work.
Yeah.
That doesn't work. It's an essential survival. If you're fearless, that means you go through the dark alley and you don't collect data. That means you don't collect relevant information. If you're not fearless, then you start a business without collecting relevant information.
Yeah, due diligence, all that sort of stuff. Yeah. So you're like it's a loss of integrity, really, a loss of awareness.
Yes, we need the fear.
Yeah.
Yes, that means we're becoming aware about what we need to know about and what do we need to gather. The problem with fear is that it can paralyze us and we don't act at all. Yeah.
Yep.
So that is obviously not good either. That means we stay in the cave and then we don't evolve the species. Yeah.
Yep.
So giving into fear is actually against the evolutionary principle of the universe. That means we will stay at home. That means we don't get out. I mean, that means we don't do anything. So fear is an essential element for us to keep to read the data, but also to know how to transcend fear into the relevant organ, and then have the hardware available that gives us the opportunity to keep going. Yeah. So fearless is not the right word. Is face fear, keep moving.
Face fear, keep moving. Yeah.
Yeah. Face fear, gather the information, work out what is relevant and what is projected by the mind, which means anxiety that is not real. And then looking at, okay, I need to know about this. What do I need? What do I need in order to prepare this? So that requires a body that is able to provide the ability. And that means fear actually depends on an effective hardware.
Yeah. Yep.
So
yourself to be prepared for it.
Yeah, because fear is a software. It's an impulse. It requires the hardware to direct it in the right direction. Yeah, so that's where evolution has relearned over the thousands of years how to transcend fear into action. Yeah. If we wouldn't have transcended fear into action, we all would be still in the caves.
Yep.
So we wouldn't have evolved. So that means we can't actually move forward without fear, because every advance forward brings up data that is unknown.
Yeah.
And that means what comes to us can either eat us or build us. So that's obviously the situation that we are facing now. And obviously we're now in an incredible situation with a virus that is one of the most mystical viruses of all times, and which every week there's a new research by the medical sciences of how that virus actually operates. So, so the latest discovery is that it's actually not respiratory induced, it's actually affecting the blood vessels. So if it affects the blood vessels and therefore creating blood stagnation, which then leads to the blood clotting, that means actually Chinese medicine was correct from the start when it says it's not respiratory, it's a spleen deficiency.
Yeah, yeah.
So, that means there's actually a spleen action, and Chinese medicine addresses the situation by reducing phlegm and building the spleen, which is, so you could say COVID is the virus that has evolved is a result of the excessive lifestyle. That too much yang, too much go, too much fast food in order to cater for the yang, too much sugar to support the yang, and too many drugs in order to keep moving forwards in regard to the yang. All that impaired spleen, cause spleen deficiency, massive phlegm production, and etc. So which then, because the spleen is directly connected to the blood vessel, it started to impact on the blood vessels and made the blood vessels weak. And with the blood vessels become weak, we're talking cardiovascular disease, we're talking diabetes, we're talking Alzheimer's, we're talking lifestyle diseases. Yes. Yeah. So as a result of the lifestyle diseases, obviously the environment acts on it because everything's connected, and viruses will act on what's already happening within.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you could say, from that perspective, it's our lifestyle that made that virus available to attack us.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. It creates the weakness for it to come in.
because we advance into new territory and new enemies come to us. I said, oh, look at that. Look at those humans. Oh, they eat so much fast food. They eat so much sugars. Oh, awesome. Let's go for it.
Easy target.
And boom, yeah. And boom. And that's why it's affecting those with lifestyle problems more than those who live correctly don't really impacted by the fear. Those correctly have more fear than those who live correct. And this is a major division we already can see on this planet because of that. Yes. So as a result of the fear means new data is coming to us. There's obviously new trends coming forward. How can we engage with it? So this is actually, from that perspective, the golden days for a new business idea. Yeah, this is
I really agree with that. Totally.
This is like incredible time for coming up with some solutions because everyone's affected by COVID. If you believe in it or not, you are affected.
Totally. Totally.
Everyone's behavior is changed. And for example, like regardless if you believe or not, if you go to an elevator and touch the knobs or the door, you think twice before you touch. Because you believe that there's something on that surface that could kill us. So we got new fear factors we didn't have before. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
I know. I'm just so bummed. It looks like I'm not going to get to my reward trip in Bora Bora. I'm like, what had this amazing trip lined up, and it's just not going to happen. I'm shocked with the shutdown of the transporters, like how long it's gone on for. And there's so many things outside of our control. A friend of mine has been trying to get back to the States for months. Finally caught a plane yesterday.
Yes, but as a result of that, demand never finishes, never stops. Demand on people. Yeah. The demand to do things, it never stops. The demand to consume never stops. But fear stops us to go for the old provisions of services. But so that's because the fear means we're collecting data and we are careful how we act as a result of that. But the data we collect is on an assumption that there is a threat. So if now a service is offered or a product is offered that actually counteracts this threat, you've got everyone's attention.
Yeah, that's why health products walked off the shelves in the first few weeks of COVID. You couldn't buy vitamin C. Immune boosting product has disappeared.
Yeah, the mega trends are now, one of the mega trends is health. Yeah, obviously health can go in many different directions. As an entrepreneur, for example, you could get into producing sprays to put on doorknobs and door handles as you walk around. And all kind of stuff. But then obviously the big picture is how we can actually, because everyone's mind is on how to protect against the invasion. So that means obviously we need a system that is able to detect whatever is the threat and then eradicates the enemy before it enters. And that is immunity.
Yeah, immune system.
So obviously the question is all about the immunity because what the latest research had shown that COVID more relates to a cold than a flu. It's a deadly cold, not a flu, because it actually enters via the nose. And the nose is like a cold. So this is where immunity is the first soldiers are right at the nose and making sure that nothing enters. Yeah, and then whatever enters will be eradicated straight away. Yep. This is why nose breathing is now crucial. As opposed to mouth breathing. Yeah, because the mouth hasn't got the defenses, but the nose has. Yes. So ancient techniques of the martial art, of the kung fu and of the yogis suddenly have an enormous relevance because the data that is on people's mind now that they're collecting is how can I protect against the invasion? And now the latest research, okay, it enters via the nose. Okay, that means I need to look into breathing techniques.
Yeah, consciousness around that.
So people started suddenly get into breathing techniques that never done before, actually start improving their health.
Yeah, yeah, I'm loving it. A lot of people are doing that.
Because you never needed to, like till about pre-COVID, no one talked about breathing techniques except a minority group.
Mm.
But now it's on people's minds. Yeah, obviously
Yeah.
the mask. What do they do? You know, nose breathing is more effective than the mask, from what some experts say. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, then there's all this debate: is the mask actually working? Because the problem with the mask is, as some nurses have identified it, the oxygen consumption goes down.
Yeah.
Your blood pressure goes up.
Yeah. Yeah. There's definitely studies showing that the mask is more of a hazard.
Yeah. So it's just, as you remember when you worked as an when you worked for the ambulance, when you worked as a paramedic, the mask actually enhances your fear factor.
Yeah. 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 In fact, the more rugged up you are in personal protective equipment, the more alien you feel. Like you feel like a loss of connection with your environment, and you're not as good as responding.
Yeah, that's obviously, we need to understand that we got to look internal for those factors. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is obviously where we first of all, we are under psychic pressure as we haven't seen before. So that means fear is now higher than ever before. So we need to understand, first of all, that fear has got a counterpart in the organ. And the organ that's responsible, that regulates fear, is the kidney. So the more we actually going within and building the kidney, the more we are able to rationalize the stimulus that we are affected by. That means we make good decisions rather than the wrong decisions. Because we have seen now over the last few months that if we don't transcend fear, panic is the result.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as a result of the panic, politicians have made rash decisions which later have been proven not to be particularly good.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so the pandemic is more like a panic-demic. Yes.
Panic-demic. I love that word, panic-demic. That is awesome. Hey, I want to go back to like what you said when we first started, and you've said it a few times about there's so much more fear, there's so much more pressure on us from the environment, and that really is a catalyst and a stimulus for our evolution. And yes. I really want to thank you again for introducing me to transcendental meditation like weeks back. And it's been a month that I've been doing that now, and more I'm feeling myself addicted to doing that. Like I'm absolutely looking forward to my meditation. I can't say I've never felt that feeling towards meditation. I've always known it's good for me, but it's kind of felt like a chore. But TM is like, I can't wait to do it, which is weird, but I like it. But this whole sense of like this pressuring in, well, when I'm in TM, I feel like I get to a really dark centered point, but then I drop down and I get to a level of where my thinking is very soft, all the rigidness and hardness is gone, and they talk about the unified field, and then it's just like poof, and it's a massive expansion. So to me, it's like this huge contraction, but then within that, there's it's like the yang within the yin, right? There's the expansion when you get to that level, which is phenomenal, and that gives me a strength that I feel to be able to cope with this external pressure. So I know we've got all these physiological features, reactions and physical impacts from it as well. But I think it can't be understated how not just our breathing, but the way we think and our mental, emotional exercises, how powerful that is to deal with this fear, right?
Yes. Yeah. The first thing what happens is when fear hits, we're becoming more and more alone, lonely. Like that's what nurses talk about, that people would die of COVID, they'll die a lonely death. And they're surrounded by other people, but they feel lonely. So that's obviously the fear, the panic that's taken over. The more we go into fear, the more alone we feel. So this is why the ancient techniques of the meditation is so profound, because what it does, it actually takes us from the reality of being a human. It transcends us deep into that field, what you just talked about. And in that moment, it connects you to the bigger. And in that moment, we can't feel alone.
Yeah, it's total oneness.
Yeah, we just feel we are one with all there is. Yeah, and that's what the Chinese call cosmic consciousness rather than mundane consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
So mundane consciousness is the ego, is the I'm just me, and everything around is a threat. I've left the cave, I've left the security behind, and I'm on my own.
Mm.
That's the mundane reality. That's the mundane consciousness.
Mm.
And that always triggers massive emotionality. And this emotionality always leads to reactive patterns. So reactive patterns always means rush decisions, which later we regret. Yes.
Yeah, we always had a saying in paramedics, as emotion goes up, IQ comes down. So
Yes,
in really tense situations, people would panic and do stupid stuff they wouldn't normally do. And just by understanding that, you take the whole judgment off it and just go, well, that's what humans are like when they're highly emotive.
The most important thing we can do is to learn how to transcend emotionality into this unified field awareness.
Yeah.
Because this unified field, that's or what the Chinese call the cosmic consciousness. That's the intelligence that understands a whole lot. It understands everything.
Mm.
The intelligence we can't comprehend. It's like we're looking at the stars. We can't make sense of it. But cosmic consciousness is beyond stars. It has created the stars.
Yeah.
It understands the stars. So that means within us, there's a guidance and an intelligence that knows exactly what to do. And when we are in mundane consciousness, we don't see the way forward other than the fear, and we react and we do harsh decisions which aren't really big. Therefore, the best thing, the most important thing we can learn is how to transcend emotionality. Yeah. For example, that's the aim of all the Navy SEAL training. Navy SEAL training, because they're under harsh psychic pressure conditions at all times, they can't use emotionality. They have to be calm.
Mm.
Because once they're calm, they suddenly understand. And Google has identified those states as flow states. We are suddenly in the flow, we suddenly understand. And in technical terms, as according to the human consciousness research, the information provision at the moment is 2.3 billion bits of information per second if we are in this calm flow state. If we are in mundane awareness, it's only about maximum 140 bits of information per second. So it's a very minimal amount of information as opposed to 2.3 billions. So when we are threatened with a virus that is mystical, that no one understands exactly what's going on, and we operate from the mundane awareness, we only got 140 bits of information available. It's not enough to provide solutions.
Yeah.
So we have to go into flow states in order to open up to the intelligence that has created everything, which understands the virus.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as a result of that is, it will give us information about what to do about it. Yes.
I'm taking notes because this is just gold. The whole cosmic consciousness, 3.2 versus 140 bits. Like, that's just amazing.
And so all this, that means the information coming to us in that moment is obviously the solution, but that solution is what the entrepreneur wants. That's the business opportunity. Yeah.
Yep.
So with everything is now psychically going down to one point. I mean, if you go on Facebook home feed, it's all about the panic. It's all about the repression. It's all about lashing at the government. It's all about but no one actually looks at the opportunity. Hang on, we've got to provide solutions. Yeah. And in order to provide the solutions, we need to be aware that fear, which is the instigator for the rush decisions in the mundane reality, that we need to actually transcend fear. And that requires more than just working with your mind. So because in Chinese medicine, fear, the opposite of fear is confidence, and also having the information available of knowing how to act. And that requires a substance. So it's not just in the mind. So in Chinese medicine, in order to manage fear, in that managing fear means I'm sensitive to the information, I collect the information, I give the information into my body, I transcend the information deep into what you just called before the united field,
Yep.
but then it connects with the substance and then provides the information. I then can see how to act on that fear factor. And that substance is what the Chinese call Jing, J-I-N-G, Jing. And that's like a life force, it's power, and it's stored in the kidney. And so the idea is how to work with Jing, because that means in there is actually what makes not only life available, but also what makes information available. So when we get into sexual union, so once again, I have to bring sex in. For some reason, I can't get around it.
We'd all be disappointed if you didn't talk about sex at some point. And Jing energy, that's your like constitutional Jing.
As soon as you're sexually aroused, you know exactly what to do.
Yeah.
So you're completely confused and you don't know what's going on and you're not motivated. But as soon as you get really sexually aroused, you know exactly what to do.
Yeah. You don't need sex education to know what to do.
Yeah.
Just the consequences of.
You know exactly how to engage with that partner. You know exactly what to do. Yeah. So that means we're tapping into Jing. Yeah, we're tapping into the substance that actually has got information about how to act. It understands, it's the intelligence. So that means in that union, we actually have access to the universal intelligence. That's why yogis always talk about sex, because in the yogi practices, we trying to recapture the experience of sex without going into the actual sex, because the sexual act releases too much Jing and therefore can lead to depletion. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, however, if we understand how to tap into it, which is what this transcendental meditation does, by transcending deep in, you're connecting, you suddenly have Jing available. So the more the deeper we go within, the more we have access to this mystical substance called Jing. Yes. Mm. So really, how to build Jing depends more on how we act and how we live and how we train our mind to transcend the emotionality. Because when we are highly emotional, we waste our Jing.
Yeah, it's like burning it off. It just disappears. We feel exhausted from stress.
Yes. People who are highly stressed use up their Jing faster than someone who's not stressed.
Yeah.
So everyone is given a certain amount of Jing when they're born. And it's like a bucket load of Jing. And then we have to manage that Jing for the rest of our life. Yes. So if we understand how to look after the Jing, that means we can live for a very long time. If we don't know how to look after the Jing, that means we get emotional all the time. That means we get caught up in mundane affairs. We get upset about other people all the time. Every time I get upset about my neighbor or about a friend, someone around the person I deal with, I use a little bit of my Jing. Because the other way how to tap into your Jing is by anger. If I get angry, I have power.
Yep.
That power is Jing. Yes.
Okay.
So you never would ask an angry man in the pub, "Are you tired?"
Yeah.
Yes. When you're angry, you can be very tired, driving around in the car, and someone cuts you off. That anger comes up. In that moment, there is no tiredness. There is no lack of energy. Yeah.
Yep.
So anger can actually taps into that Jing. This is the pathological nature of anger. That means angry people age quicker.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Now, if someone is angry all the time, they in fact harm themselves because they die quicker.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't know that. I didn't know that anger was Jing energy. Yeah.
There's those who actually understand how to transcend the anger and go into acceptance and move forward and work via the calm mind. Obviously, those actually will extend the lifespan. That's why you don't see grumpy masters. That's why masters don't get upset about mundane affairs.
Mm. Yeah,
Yes.
it's water off a duck's back, just different stuff happening, but they're just still calm.
If someone gets upset about mundane affairs, they haven't learned the skill of transcending. That's one thing, yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's obviously where laughter is coming in, because laughter actually refreshes the Jing. Because what happens with laughter is it actually works by the fire element, and the fire nurtures the Jing. Yeah.
Okay.
So that is when we are facing with fear. A really good way to bring information is by using humor. Humor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Humor. And that means you're actually making the mickey out of the situation.
Yeah.
You're tapping into information. Yeah.
And I find, like, you know, paramedics, policemen, fireys, military people, a lot of the time we have pretty dark sense of humor, pretty black humor it's called. And we have to be careful not to use it in front of people that don't understand it, because it just sounds so out of context, but it just helps you deal with the stress. You know,
yeah.
It's shocking, but you can be laughing in the most horrible situation because it's a way of cope. Yeah. Yeah,
that's when you meet a master. You always find, like, a master, when you tell them a problem, they usually find something hilarious about that situation.
Yeah, that is so true. That is so true. Yeah, I agree with that. The wisest people I've spoken to,
you always tap into it. Yeah,
make you laugh out of it. That's cool.
Yeah. So, and that's why the old saying that laughter is medicine, that's how Chinese medicine will back that up. It said, yes, of course it's medicine. Yeah, because if it's a forced laughter, it won't work. It has to be real. And that comes from transcending all the time. The more we understand to transcend, yes.
Mm.
But we need to understand that when it comes to working with fear and how to make fear work for us, we need to understand that there's a substance involved. It just is not in the mind.
Yeah.
We go into the substance. And the substance provides us with the information. The information then gives us new insights. New insight gives us ideas about how to move forward. That's what the entrepreneur wants.
Yeah.
How we get ideas. So this substance, Jing, depends on eating correctly, on having the right herbs, and obviously having the right supplements. Yes, that is crucial. That's it. And I'm going to talk about it soon, about what foods to eat that will actually benefit the kidneys, and therefore automatically will provide information how to deal with fear. Yeah.
Okay.
But the most important substance that we need for that is obviously ASEA, because ASEA benefits Jing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So anything that's anti-aging benefits Jing. And ASEA is probably one of the most profound anti-aging substances that I work with in my professional time.
Me too.
And,
yeah.
That's why I tell everyone, you've got to be on this gear. It's silly not. Yeah. Especially under this enormous psychic pressure that we are exposed to now, that we're needing everything to tap us into the Jing.
Yeah.
So we can get the information.
You also said in the past that how the ASEA and the Redox is so powerful to move Qi. And that's where people get stuck in fear and they get stagnant too, right? So there's a benefit there as well, as far as just getting the Qi moving.
And I tell everyone, look, I'm 62 years of age, and people will know me and work out with me. They know that I'm not my age. Yes. So I'm actually now, I've reached the age stage where I am a living proof that those substances work. So it's easy to talk about anti-aging when you're 30 or 35. Like a lot of Instagram influencers are into anti, and they're 25 years old. You know.
I know. I saw one yesterday. It's like I'm looking at it, going, "Wow!" Like age hasn't even hit you yet. You know, like 30-year-old talking about anti-aging. It's like hard to take seriously.
I was 25. There was no aging idea. There was like, party as hard as you can, live as hard as you can, sleep maybe half an hour, get up, do it again. Just keep going. Yeah? Yeah. So it's easy to talk about anti-aging then. Said, oh yeah, all you need to do is party all night and you know, you can take lots of drugs. Yeah.
Yeah.
So really, we need to be very careful about advice. Yes, like social media is full with advice from inappropriate sources. Yes, and obviously age is crucial to provide guidance. You know, that's why we have a real problem with Instagram, with one of those influencers, because the age is not there yet to understand. You can't talk about diet if you're 30 years of age. You need to be older, because otherwise it's just theory. Yes. And so someone says blueberries are good for you because the book says the blueberries are good for you. But if you have a certain yin-yang configuration, the sugar in the blueberries will actually accelerate aging.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for every good food, there's an equal amount of destruction. Yes? For every good food, there's an equal amount of destruction. So that means you can't have yin and yang in isolation. So it's everything subject to yin and yang. Chinese medicine understands that. So if you work with, maybe next week we should talk more about food, because it is really so important to understand exactly what goes on, what breakfast do we need and what lunches we need. Because it's not just about isolating the food. We need to understand that whatever food we eat, in there something also destroys us. Yes. So you can't have just good by itself. It's yin and yang. If it's good, which means it's yin, it will have the relevant yang, which is the destructive element. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That means yin and yang exist together. So that's where obviously why when we are in fear, we tend to go for the first available information. Yes, I see this all the time on Facebook, because fear is now so widespread in the community. If someone puts a post up and it fits in with their expectation on the 140 bits of information per second, that means on a fear level, they immediately engage with that and say, oh, that must be right.
Yeah.
And now they go with it and take that information, and they're doing more harm than good. Yes. So that's why we have so many misleading posts now, because most of the posts are done by people in emotionality, acting on stimulus, acting on hushed decisions, rushed, and putting information together that makes sense in a very limited amount of information processing, but then actually causes more damage than good. So the next person who sees that, who is in a state of fear, buys into it, hooks onto it, follows it, bang, more damage. Yeah. And so the result of that is, with fear, we can actually cause a pandemic of destruction rather than a pandemic of creation. Mm-hmm. So that's why the most important thing right now is to learn how to transcend emotionality. Yes? Because if we transcend emotionality and the information that we see on social media, we can then detect the bullshit is in there. How much bullshit is in that post? How much emotionality is in the post? Yeah. Yeah. And how relevant is it to the fact that the information provided here will actually make me move forward rather than destroy me? Yeah. Because information is an emotionality. It's an enemy rather than a friend.
I think that what you've talked about, where Jing and Qi is not just energy, but it's also information. Like that was a missing link for me before we started these interviews. I forgot about that from my TCM studies. And when I've been doing this transcendental meditation, my creativity and my intuition has gone through the roof. Yes. Yeah, and I didn't even to that earlier in the interview, you were saying about how you know what to do. And I realized, yeah, I've been having a lot of thoughts about my future and about how I'm moving forward. And I think that's directly from the TM that I've been doing. Because I feel spaciousness in my mind, as opposed to like that contracted in fear thing. I've got like spaciousness, and it's awesome.
Yeah, that's what we need to understand. So the next thing is Jing relates to the water element. Mm-hmm. And in Chinese medicine, the water element, the stage of development of the water is storage. It's storing. So that means water is about storing. That means when fear hits us and we've got a strong storage of Jing, the fear is not an issue. We know how to deal, engage, and move forward. Because if the storage is depleted and there's nothing in the storehouse, and what happens now? What happens now is that the fear that impacts us has nothing, no gene to work with. There's no substance to work with. So as a result of that is we go for the emotion rather than actually looking at the information from a transcendent perspective. There's no transcendent awareness.
Yeah.
The water element and Jing, which is all water together, kidney is water, means we're transcending, we're storing, we start packing, and we're building a storehouse of Jing. So that means when we are exposed to a psychic pressure like what we have right now in this COVID time, the COVID century, we need to focus on storage and not depleting. Because the world till 6 months ago has lived in such fast yang mode, it has depleted the Jing sources. So that means there's very little Jing left in people in order to provide a rational decision to a stimulus. Therefore, when COVID hit, it was like the perfect storm. It created a massive pandemic straight away. Yeah. Everyone's Jing would be high. We wouldn't have talked about COVID. It's, oh yeah, there's another virus. Let's do this, move on. Yes. And so we would have the enormous capability of dealing with that situation by understanding how to keep moving forward. But because everyone's Jing was depleted, therefore the fear level that now was hit didn't have the corresponding substance or the corresponding kidney energy to provide rational understanding of that situation. So it immediately caused emotionality.
Yeah.
And who are the people who are most Jing depleted? Politicians.
Yeah.
And when I look at a politician, every year they're getting older, very quick. Yeah. In 1 year in office, they age like 10 years. Yes. Yes. When you look at Anastasia here in Queensland, there's not much Jing left. Yes.
Yeah, it's a tough job like that.
Yeah, most of the politicians are Jing bankrupted. Yeah? Because I know what to look for as a Chinese practitioner. I know the signs in the face. I can tell in everyone's face the level of Jing. You can tell on the eyes. You can tell at the nose, how the nose is shaped. You can tell in the cheekbones. You can tell on the ears. There's a lot of incredible signs in the face that give you your Jing away. And it's so noticeable that people in power position who lead lead people are excessively, really Jing depleted, Jing deficient. Yeah. And as a result of that, means they are more prone to buy into panic. Yeah. So what you need is obviously we need a leader who is just totally transcended, like fall on deep into themselves, who is like really like a walking example of a Jing storage, who just like bang, just walk in there and who don't get caught up in any emotionality. And then suddenly bang, 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 okay, this is the situation. I get that information, let's act on this. Yeah. And obviously that we don't see that, which is why everyone is screaming out for the leader. Yeah. And obviously we don't. And so, but it's also probably a massive transition in society in the evolution that now the leaders come from within. So it's not about the politicians anymore. It's about up to us people to make it happen and to ignore politicians. And that has been prophesied by the masters already long time ago, by the Chinese medicine. It says that in the future, people will guide themselves. They will not have politicians. There's no need for government. There's no need for politicians. And I think we are starting to witnessing that. And because it's getting less and less relevant, but more and more important to build our own Jing. Yeah. And so that means really the most important thing right now is to know how to nourish this substance. Yes. And that's obviously where redox signaling is coming into. You see, as I said over and over, the universe will not provide a problem without offering a solution. Yeah. So as it causes havoc in one area, like enormous intelligent people creating solutions, discovering substances as never before.
Yeah.
So Chinese medicine has evolved to a level now where it's so profound. Like the Chinese herbs I work with, have the formulas are developed on such a level now that it is like far better than 200 years ago. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so our understanding of Chinese medicine evolves with each generation. Like the martial art instructors, the martial art families of China, every generation gets stronger. Every generation they're getting stronger. Mm-hmm. We see the athletic performance, they're getting stronger. So, yeah, and so people run faster, swim faster. I mean, when you look up on YouTube, is what the people, how they jump up now. People jump 2 meters out of the stand, you know, and shit like that. I mean, this is like,
yeah. Doing. They're like springs.
People do like 15 somersaults in a row and doing all kind of shit, yeah. And it's just mind-boggling, yes. And so obviously they're tapping into bodily performance as never before, and they're understanding the foods to take, they're understanding the herbs to take. But at the same time, a nutritional scientist also discovering new things. And that's where RCA is coming into. Why I tell everyone RCA is the most important, because it taps into this incredible cutting-edge research. And therefore, it goes straight into your gene, and then make sure that in terms you don't shorten your telomeres. So every RNA, photosynthesis, replication, etc., will not be wasting aspect of gene. If you get emotional, you waste your gene. Yeah? Yeah, if you understand the Chinese herbs to take, you will not get emotional. That's how it is. And that's why in Chinese medicine, herbs are more important than food, because food is too complex to work with, but the herbs are more specific and target the organ directly. And when it comes to psychic pressure in the way that we are exposed to right now, we need to understand the Chinese herbs. We need to understand the supplement that will benefit the substance, which is Qing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So if you take Chinese herbs, if you take Redox, you actually will start getting information from within, from your substance, that will tell you what to do next. And you will see what businesses to focus on. You will immediately have such a high sensitivity to bullshit on Facebook that you will immediately discard all this ridiculous information that's, I'd say 95% is now complete bullshit. Yeah? Yeah. This is like based on fear. Yes? Yeah. If you fear, you don't make a rational decision. So if you go into a combat situation and the commander freaks out, is in fear, it's going to be the wrong decision. Yeah? So which is why the Navy SEALs, they put you into harsh psychic conditions all the time and then make you transcend the stimulus and to find your calmness within. Because then, only then have you access to Jing, which provides you with the information relevant that allows you to move forward. Yeah. Yeah. So that's what we see now. Because obviously we see rush decisions based on Jing deficiency. And Jing deficiency has caused the invasion of the virus in the first place. Our lifestyle created the virus. Yeah. Our deficiency pattern. Every time, like the inner organism and the outer organism work in harmony. They work there in conjunction. The more we build the inner, the more the outer reflects the inner. So we always will be exposed to enemies. If you go into the bad mood into other people, it will have an impact on the other people. They will act on you. Yeah. If you go in with anger to a meeting, anger will come to you. If you go in deficient, with a deficiency pattern, and you leave the cave deficient, viruses will come to you. Yeah. And so therefore, we need to understand. So the foods, I want to quickly talk about the foods that benefit the kidneys in that regard. Because we're talking about water element, we talk about storage, we're talking about Jing. And the taste that is affiliated with kidney and Jing is the salty taste. Yeah, so this is where, like, so much talk about salt is bad, and in Chinese medicine, we don't isolate. So a factor that salt is bad is saying you're taking, that means you take the ocean outside the equation because the ocean is salty. Life comes from the ocean. Okay?
Yeah.
So all this talk about salt it's out of context. Yeah, and has caused fear factors and rush decisions, which then leads to deficiency patterns. Yes. So when people take salt out of their diet in order to control blood pressure, you're actually harming Jing.
Yeah.
So you need to understand how to work with salt. Yes. So obviously this is where the pickled foods come into place. The pickled foods, yeah, like sauerkraut and these sort of like pickled foods, they are real Jing builders. Like they benefit the Jing. You know, that's why Germans are so big because they always have so much sauerkraut.
Yeah, I got to say, I love it. So, is it just the pickled foods, or is it because that's like fermented foods as well?
Yes, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like salty taste, like it's a salty taste which makes it okay. The next one is like oyster sauce and soy sauce. Yes, that's like it's like oyster sauce, soy sauce. Like this always. In the Eastern traditions, we always work with soy sauce and oyster sauce and all these sauces that are salty in taste.
Okay, yeah.
Of course, they've got sodium level, but they are balanced in yin and yang, so they benefit the Jing. If you put like isolated white salt on French fries, you're gonna harm the Jing.
Yeah.
So now you put the blood pressure through the roof, but now you're giving the information that salt is bad for you. Now you're taking the salty taste away. If you take the salty taste away, you neglect Jing. That means you don't benefit the Jing. That means now you're causing emotionality.
Yeah.
So this is where it's so tricky to understand that we can't isolate factors. And I think the COVID phenomenon, the COVID century now forces us to look into yin and yang. We got to look at both, yeah. And the foods that are going to run by now, they've got a really classic salty taste. And the first one is beetroot. Beetroot is regarded as an anti-aging food. So beetroot is salty in taste. So if you have beetroot juice every day, like a beetroot soup, you actually working with benefiting the Jing. The next one is celery. That's why the celery juice diet is coming into. But in Chinese medicine, we make the celery into a soup and we work with herbs in order not to isolate. We put other factors in. Yeah. The next one are carrots. Carrots are salty. Spinach, like spinach is Jing. That's why Popeye.
That's why Popeye. Yeah.
Spinach ideally is like really like dark green spinach, yeah. Together with oysters. When you look at Chinese meals, you see like always this dark green spinach with oyster sauce, yeah. And then they balance that with a nice and sweet honey chicken, you know. So you benefit the spleen and you benefit the Jing, you know. So it's great how they do it. But that's like a real classic Jing builder, like this green spinach or with oyster sauce that you would buy in Chinese restaurants. Every time you go to a Chinese restaurant, make sure to have that.
Yeah, I do. It's always one of my favorite dishes. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. The next one is artichokes. Artichokes.
Oh yeah.
I really like. Oh man, just think about artichokes, especially if you sort of pickle them or if you soak them overnight or a few days in red wine and mustard seeds, yeah, and then really just bring a bit of vinegar in there, like obviously always apple cider vinegar, yeah. And the next one is a cantaloupe, which is a kind of a melon. It's like a salty melon. It's a thick little melon. It's a cantaloupe, and not many people know that, but it's actually a Jing builder, yeah. So it is also bitter, but it's salty, so it really targets the kidney. The next one is seaweed. That's why the Japanese have so much seaweed. Like seaweed is obviously like the ultimate Jing builder.
Do you have some favorites in there? Of which types? Like I love the wakame. I love wakame. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly.
always working with, when I work with seaweed, always do look sesame, always work tahini to balance that. Seaweed and that's really good.
Okay.
Yeah. And then tamari on top of it. Seaweed, tahini, and tamari, which is in soy sauce. Yeah. On top of, and then you do that on. You can have it on millet. Millet is the grain that resonates with Jing. So millet is the ultimate grain for Jing building. So making a porridge out of millet every day is like a good way to, like, really good Jing builder. Yeah.
Good to know.
I treated it back in the old days, back in my days, I treated a few porn stars.
How am I not surprised?
Always seem to attract the more fringe people rather than the middle people. I very rarely see someone in the middle. Very rare. It happened, I think, once 10 years ago.
That's classic.
Right up there. Yeah. And obviously, porn stars have to ejaculate. You know, cum shots. That's the big thing. You know, you can't just come internally. You have to show what you've got there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, yeah. The higher the ejaculation, the more Jing, the more forceful, the more projectile, the more Jing.
Yeah.
And obviously, porn stars, if they don't have the ability to ejaculate, what happens is they become the aging porn star. Yeah. Yeah. And obviously, and I treated this client, and he became really back in the old youth style again. And that was working purely with millet porridge every day.
Cool.
And so into your sex life with a man, have millet. Go to the health food shop right now and buy 10 kilograms of millet.
Yeah, I know a few blokes that should be listening to this.
It's really powerful. It's and if you then together, obviously with oysters, with soy sauce, and with seaweed and cantaloupes and spinach and artichokes, and you really bring the Jing up. Yeah, yeah. The next one is shellfish. That's why obviously the Chinese love shellfish. Yeah, whereas obviously a lot of Westerners look at shellfish from an antihistamine perspective and food allergies. Food allergies is the result of massive Jing deficiency. Yeah, so deficiency patterns always lead to food allergies. So in Chinese medicine, we don't take food away, we target the deficiency. Mm-hmm. See, that's in Chinese medicine, we differ to the Western approach. We don't say, don't eat this, we're going to build this organ. Because if you start reducing food, it doesn't take long before there's nothing left to eat. Yeah. And then life becomes dull. And that means now you're harming the Jing. Yeah. Because a lot of the foods that you most likely have to take out actually necessary for your Jing. Yeah. The salty taste, or good for your spleen, the sweet foods, or the carbs. Yeah. And so that's why we got such a massive deficiency pattern in society, because they're buying into isolated values and isolated information. Mm-hmm. We tell you carbs are bad. We tell you salt is bad, and all without looking into what is the purpose of salt? What's going on here? Yeah. Yeah. So instead of we're focusing on the diet, we're giving lots of herbs. Yeah. Yep. And this is obvious. The next one is the last one is red meat. That's why red meat is so important for a lot of people, because red meat targets Jing. It's a direct so that's where vegan food can cause complications for those who need the Jing. So my view on diet is it's not absolute. You can't follow a diet theory. You have to first of all identify who you are in terms of your Jing, in terms of your spleen, in terms of your blood. Then once you got the information gathered about who you are internally and constitutional wise, then move towards and gathering the relevant information about what foods to eat. Yeah. So that means clear-headedness. Don't react. Don't act hard. It's very common. People feel bad, and now they go for a diet in order to feel good, because the emotion that triggered in the ad on Facebook was enough to provide a positive experience, and then you act on it and you follow up on the diet, and most likely it makes it worse in most cases. And then the advice is keep going, you're letting all the toxins out. What you're actually aggravating the deficiency pattern and the imbalances. So we never make rush decisions. We always, first of all, identify where it's, and in order to do that, obviously, first of all, we always, before we engage with any diet advice, we always do the overall picture. Take those supplements that build Jing, and that's why you always take ASEA, regardless of what it is. That's number one. And you always take Chinese herbs to balance the, and then you always do transcendental meditation, chi practices, yoga, in order to reach the inner point. And then you always are connected to the altar, and you will never feel alone. That's the beauty. If you follow this path, you will never feel alone.
Yeah.
It's just like, everyone who goes into this path realizes this too. It's just, if you follow the chi cycle as outlined in my book, Clock On, you're never alone. You're always like, you always feel connected, and then you always feel like the support of the universe, and especially in this hard condition that we're experiencing right now, we need as much support as we can.
Yeah, absolutely. So be your best friend and your own best friend, and support yourself, right, with your lifestyle, what you're eating, what you're putting in your mouth, and how you're moving, and how you're treating your mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Fantastic, Jost. It was a great session again today. Thank you so much for that awesome information. I certainly hope everyone out there has been madly taking notes like I have. Just real quick, sauerkraut, fermented foods, salty sauces, oyster and soy sauce, beetroot, celery, particularly in soups, carrots, spinach, Chinese greens, artichokes, cantaloupe, seaweed, and tahini and tamari together, particularly millet being the ultimate grain for Jing building, oysters, shellfish, and red meat, and meditation, yoga, qigong, laughter, and of course ASEA and Redox as just the biggest bang for your buck there. But now I think I've got more appreciation for why sometimes going to comedy costs more. I can think of it as a part of my therapy budget, not just my entertaining budget.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, look, thank you so much, Jost. That was amazing. Thanks for everyone for being in the audience and listening along. Please, by all means, invite people into the Facebook group, Renew with Redox, or if you're not in that group, ask the person that invited you to come along to today's Zoom to join that Facebook group, and then people can watch through the recorded sessions in there. Thanks to David. David put up a link there earlier about under the files section. All of our previously recorded interviews with Jost are in that file section there. So come and check that out. And I put Jost's link to his website where you can buy the book Clock On to Health and have a look at his lifestyle medicine resources there as well. And thank you everyone for your appreciation and sharing the love with what Jost brings to us on the table. Thanks for your questions. I hope, Ivan, that we answered your question to Jost about why he loves ASEA. And if not, if you'd like to learn more about ASEA and Redox, every Tuesday night at redoxtalks.com, we do a 30-minute presentation about that to educate you. And if you want to get started on Redox and ASEA and you haven't already, please go back to the person that invited you and get educated and do yourself a favor, because it is powerful stuff. So awesome, Jost. Any parting words of wisdom before we wrap up for today?
The situation on hand now is an incredible opportunity to do something new that hasn't been done before. And the idea is not to buy into the panic people, and to learn techniques that allow you to transcend and then keep moving towards the goals that you see as the result of that. There are massive opportunities ahead of us. It's all part of the bigger picture, so it's all good in the end.
Yeah, all good in the end. Awesome. Thank you, Jost. Bye all. Have a great week. Catch you same time, same place next week. Bye for now.
Yeah.